Hello YouTube, it's Grim Reaper 1312 aka Nihilus Chrome for you again with a new story that's called A Story of Time and Forgiveness. It's ongoing at the moment. Each chapter is fairly long, so I'm going to I have to cut the chapters up in parts because there's only so much I can read at a day without giving up on it. So here's the first part of the first chapter. I hope you'll enjoy it. See you next time. Chapter 1. Choice and Memory. Once again the mail ponies had delivered the wrong weather report. Today's forecast called for blue skies, but the color overhead was a thick dark grey that only got thicker and darker towards the horizon. The wind was brisk enough to kick up clouds of dust from the dirt road, and the smell of rain breezed along with it. Every few seconds a black cloud rumbled in the distance. "I'd better wrap this up soon," Trixie thought. "And now, for her final feat of spectacular sorcery and marvelous magic, the great and powerful Trixie will make a member of the audience disappear." Trixie reared back and flourished her cape. Enchanted fireworks went off behind her, a dazzling volley of sparks, swirls, and shooting stars. The crowd oohed and ahed. Trixie smirked. "Now, which one of your little ponies is brave enough to volunteer?" She strutted across the stage, a confident smile hanging on her face. She loved audience participation. It was always fun putting ponies on edge, even if she couldn't get away with the usual "anything you can do, I can do better" routine with a crowd of fewer than 20. Thanks to the weather, though, the audience was too busy shivering and glancing at burgeoning storm clouds to really get into the act. "What's this? No pony's going to step forward. Looks like the great and powerful Trixie'll have to choose some pony herself." The crowd burst, glancing at one another and whispering excitedly. "Good to know I can still keep them interested." Trixie scanned the crowd for potential volunteers. They were tourists, or at least they looked like it. They all wore tacky, comfortable clothing, and behind them stood a large black trolley carriage with a peevish-looking stallion at the reins. A few of them had cameras, though no pony took any pictures. "They're probably on their way to a tour of Ponyville. They're not going to waste any film on some street magician. Still, maybe I can get them to waste some more of their time." The faraway clouds grumbled impatiently. Trixie took the hint and made her choice. "How about you?" Trixie's hoof shot towards a little blank-flanked filly wearing a red scarf and a large pair of sunglasses. "Do you mean me?" she squeaked. Trixie chortled precautiously. "Well, Trixie isn't pointing at any pony else. Now, come on up." A few audience members moved aside, opening a path to the stage for the filly. But she wouldn't budge. She looked up expectantly at a rotund, mustachioed stallion standing next to her. He gave her a few gentle nudges with his hoof, but it still wasn't enough to get her moving. The filly was shaking so hard, Trixie could hear the giant pair of sunglasses rattle on her nose. "Well, all right then. If you won't come to the stage, the great and powerful Trixie will have to bring the stage to you." Another batch of fireworks flew up into the air, but instead of exploding, they just hung over the front row. They glided into the audience, weaving their way towards the filly, circling around her, and slowly lifting her into the air. She squirmed in the grasp of the stars, her head shooting between Trixie and the old stallion, even as she was lifted higher. The stars exploded, crashing into the filly with a ferocious bang. Every pony shielded their eyes. Slowly the audience members turned back to where the filly was. They gasped. She was gone. The crowd was silent for a long moment. Then the old stallion spoke up. "Where'd she go?" Trixie sauntered slowly down the stage and into the audience, giving her cap a mysterious tilt. It was monologue time. "Trixie knew you were going to ask that question. In fact, she knows you're all thinking the exact same thought. Where did she go, you ask yourselves? She just vanished into thin air." Trixie stared the old stallion down. "Well, you're all wrong. Nothing ever vanishes. Nothing ever simply disappears. Not even a great and powerful Trixie has the magical power required to violate such a basic law of the universe, and she may well be the most powerful unicorn in all Equestria. Trixie reared back once more, this time to call down a bolt of lightning. The audience leapt back screaming, except for the old Stellan. She just glared. Seriously, where's my daughter? Trixie rolled her eyes. Some ponies getting a little impatient. Well, if you want to know where she is... She removed her head, closed her eyes, and clapped her hooves together. A small beam of light shot out of her horn and wound its way between the audience, eventually moving past the back of the crowd and towards the carriage. Why don't you ask the driver? A little peep came from behind the peevish stallion. Daddy? The crowd cheered and clapped their hoofs. The stallion galloped over, scooped his daughter onto his back, and joined the rest of the audience in applause. Trixie hopped back on stage and tossed her cap by a sign that read, "Donations welcome." You have all been made witness to the amazing magic of the great and powerful Trixie, she said, making as many supple gestures towards the sign as she could. But the greatest magic of all is how quickly time flies by. Be sure to tell your friends and family about the great and powerful Trixie's marvelous magic show. Although Trixie's sure you don't need too much encouragement. After a few seconds, the applause died down. The crowd chattered happily and meandered around the stage, a few ponies walking over to the sign and tossing some bits into Trixie's cap. The carriage driver let out a loud drawing every pony's attention. All right. This concludes our pit stop at the great and powerful Trixie's wandering caravan. Now it's time to head down to Ponyville. We'll have dinner at our first official stop on the tour, Haute Cuisine. Every pony shouted their approval and rushed back into the carriage. Trixie rolled her eyes. She pushed the pop-out stage back into the caravan, undid the knot in her cape, and whipped a bit of sweat off her brow. That went pretty well, I guess, she thought, even as the turrets flooded their boss. Trixie tried not to hear how quickly they sped away. She picked up her cap, now heavy with bits, and tossed it through the caravan's open window. She then pulled a black tarp and a few metal spikes out of a box lying by the door. Out of curiosity, she looked down the dirty road that led towards Ponyville. Her eyes fixed upon the tour trolley, now just a speck in front of the slate-grey horizon, and watched it move farther and farther away until it disappeared completely. She closed her eyes and let the breeze play with her mane. Luna did not wish to attend tonight's Harmonious Nations conference. It wasn't that she disliked the conferences. She always enjoyed performing her royal duties, no matter how trite they might have been, and those meetings were far from trite. However, the meetings themselves were of no particular importance. It was the time they gave Luna to spend with her sister that made them so special. Luna and Celestia would always meet at the observation deck 1 hour before the meeting to catch up over a pot of tea and watch the sunset. Once dusk had settled, Celestia would summon her guards and the sister would make their way down to the meeting hall together. Today went a little differently. Instead of chatting idly with her sister, Princess Luna found herself sitting alone on the balcony, watching the sun tick down to dusk all by herself. When Celestia did show up, it was only to tell Luna that she had been blindsided by a mountain of paperwork left in the aftermath of the changeling invasion, and that she was just too exhausted to attend the meeting. Indeed, Celestia was a wreck, hair frayed, coat blotched, eyes heavy with thick, dark circles. In any case, Luna would have to preside over the conference herself, aided only by one of Celestia's nephews. She now found herself walking through the castle halls with that very pony, an officious, pretty-faced stallion with a blonde mane and an impossibly clean suit. If you don't mind me saying so, Your Majesty, I think you'll be splendid even without the aid of your sister. Luna trotted through the hallway, eyes fixed stubbornly ahead. I appreciate thine confidence, Prince Blueblood. Blueblood chuckled nervously. Oh, Princess, your sister did ask me to remind you to watch your these and those." He cantered ahead of her, trying to catch her eye. "Not to question your linguistic prowess, your grace." Luna wanted to roll her eyes. She could understand why she had to drop the royal we, but why was it so bad to use proper grammar? How were ponies supposed to tell whether she was speaking to one or all of them if she only used you and your? And she felt like an idiot every time she made herself say does instead of dost. She turned to Blueblood and forced a smile. "I take no offense. It is an acceptable correction for you to make." "Very good, Princess," Blueblood chortled. "Now, if you may be so bold once more, why are we not accompanied by your guards?" Again, Luna felt the urge to roll her eyes. "My sister deems their presence inappropriate in the company of others. She finds them intimidating." Of course, Princess Luna was outraged when her sister suggested that she attended the meeting with the Celestial Guard at her side. It was tradition for the royal guard of the presiding princess to protect the delectees, after all. Anything else would be simply unacceptable. Luna would have rather gone without guards at all, and she suggested as much. But as always, Celestia had foreseen this conundrum and devised a solution. A clandestine operative with the power to turn invisible would don the armor of the Lunar Guard and defend the meeting while cloaked by magic. Luna had to admit it was the perfect compromise. The meeting would be protected, the delegates would feel at ease, and Luna would still technically be adhering to tradition. Still, there was a drawback. Luna had no idea whether the soldier was really following her. He could have wandered down some other hallway, and Princess Luna would be none the wiser. "Well, I can understand why Princess Celestia made such a decision," Blueblood said, sensing Luna's distraction. "The eyes and ears on your guards are quite... ugh." He shivered weakly. Luna chuckled. She almost wanted to believe that the guard was standing in front of Prince Blueblood, making lewd gestures at him. At last, the two of them, three counting the guard, which Luna didn't, reached the meeting hall. The other delegates had taken their seats already, allowing Princess Luna and Prince Blueblood to quickly take attendance and call the meeting to order. As per the norm, much of the Cosmic Council was absent, though a pair of regular attendees were missing as well. Captain Shining Armor and Princess Miyamori Cadenza, both of whom were away on their honeymoon, and both of whom found replacements before their departure. Once everything had been put into order, Luna began her proceedings. "The first item on this evening's itinerary is the effect of the changeling invasion," she said, addressing every pony in the room, though she looked at none of them. "Said effect is, in point of fact, the reason for this meeting's 2-night postponement. Have you any information on the subject that bears reporting, Lieutenant Brigandine?" A stone-faced mare sitting in Shining Armor's seat spoke. "There were no casualties outside of a few injured civilians, all of whom are currently receiving medical care. Property damage was minimal, and we have no reason to believe that the changelings have invaded any HN member states or equestrian commonwealths." Several ponies sighed in relief. "It is good to hear that so little damage was dealt," said Luna. "But the true dilemma lies not in what the changelings did while they were in Canterlot, nor in what they might do to other lands, but in how their queen managed to penetrate our defenses in the first place." A tired-looking Alicorn with a silver coat spoke. "Indeed, there are obvious holes in Canterlot's security, and we need to plug them before the changelings mount a second offense. After all, we cannot—" The princess yawned for several seconds. Apparently, Princess Celestia wasn't the only one exhausted by the post-invasion efforts. Every Alicorn at the table looked a little sleepy, if not outright fatigued. It was almost enough to make Luna consider. "No, that's preposterous. If that were the case, some pony would have figured it out by now." The silver Alicorn finished her yawn. "Pardon me, every pony. As I was saying, we can't expect Princess Cadence and her husband to defend us from every threat we face." "And why shouldn't we?" asked Prince Blueblood. Every pony turned towards him, giving him puzzled looks. Well, really? You've all seen the power of love at work. What's stopping us from— No! Luna gave Prince Blueblood a halting gaze. Before you say anything else, no, we will not be weaponizing the power of love. Blueblood retracted into his chair. Apologizes, Your Majesty, but is it really such a detestable idea? Yes, it is, said the pony sitting in Cadence's seat. For a wide variety of very good reasons. Yes, it is most certainly. We will not be turning a marriage into an arms dealing, nor will we deprive the Crystal Empire of its princess, should it ever return. Blueblood opened his mouth to reply. And we will not experiment upon soldiers with loved ones. End of discussion. But just think of it. Blueblood leaned forward, tapping himself against the table. With the power of love at our disposal, Canterlot may never be in danger again. We won't have to rely on the elements of harmony every time. Oh, now I think I see what Prince Blueblood's getting at. A kobold stallion sitting near Cadence's replacement waged his hoof at Blueblood. He just wants an excuse to keep Rarity out of Canterlot. A few of the ponies sitting near the stallion snickered. Blueblood turned up his nose. I don't think that's it, Prince Palladium, said a mare sitting beside the lieutenant. I think he just wants to exact revenge on Princess Cadence in shining armor for serving such a big cake at their wedding. The ponies laughed again, more openly this time. Blueblood kept looking away. Luna tilted her head, confused. I'm not sure I follow. Why does Prince Blueblood wish for the spirit of generosity to be bared from Canterlot? He doesn't, Blueblood spat. That is to say, I don't. And for your information, Palladium, he sneered at a kobold stallion sitting across the table, Rarity and I get along just fine. Is that why she never wrote you back? Asked the princess sitting beside Luna. Blueblood gave the mare a deadly look. Hold on, just a moment, every pony. Cadence's attendant gave Luna an incredulous smile. Your Majesty, have you not been told the greatest Grand Galloping Gala story of all time? I'm not sure that I have. And you don't need to be, Prince Blueblood said hastily. It's quite overrated as far as Grand Galloping Gala stories go. Now, that covers the changeling generation, shall we? Prince Palladium tells it best, said a stallion sitting next to Blueblood. Oh, you'll love this, Princess Luna. It's simply a riot. All right, I'll tell the story again. Palladium cleared his throat loudly. Blueblood pulled the handkerchief from his coat and dabbed at his brow. So, Prince Blueblood is mingling at last year's Grand Galloping Gala, flirting with every lady he sees. Nothing out of the ordinary yet. A few of the mares at the table snickered. When all of a sudden, who should appear before him but the spirit of generosity herself, Lady Rarity of Ponyville. Prince Palladium leaned over the table, pointing at Blueblood, and he doesn't recognize her. He mistakes her for some common mare. Prince Blueblood sank into his seat. I think that's enough. Oh, but he hasn't even reached the best part. Indeed, I haven't. Moving along, Prince Blueblood decides to play a game of how much can I get away with, as he figures his actions won't have lasting consequences. It's not like she's some pony important after all. At that, even a few of the alicorns were chuckling. To make a long story short, he ends up spilling cake all over Rarity. I didn't spill it on her, and she lets fly. She screams at him and smothers him with the cake he spilled on her. And she does it right there in front of every pony. Every pony at the table laughed uproariously, except for Princess Luna. She only felt sorry for Blueblood. He fidgeted in his seat like a child, cheeks flushed, gaze downcast. Prince Palladium whipped a tear of laughter from his eye. So, long after that fiasco's ended, I am walking back to my carriage when out of the corner of my eye, I see Prince Blueblood vomiting by the side of the building. His nerves must have gotten the better of him. At that, Blueblood bolted upright. He stuffed the handkerchief back in his suit pocket and glowered at Palladium hatefully. I offer him a ride back, he accepts, and as my chauffeur helps him into the carriage, he says, "That was mortifying. Who in the names of the spirits of harmony does that mare think she is?" And I say, "Why, my dear friend, she must think she is a spirit of harmony." The delegates doubled over in laughter. Even Lieutenant Brigandite was sniggering into her hoofs. And he just nods in agreement. And then a few seconds later he assumes a look of abject horror. Palladian opened his eyes and mouth as wide as he could. He stays like that for a full minute, and then he... And that I threw up all over myself. Prince Blueblood clapped his hoofs derisively and faked laughter. "Oh yes, isn't it just the funniest story ever told? It never gets old." Princess Luna felt a bead of sweat form on her brow. "Oh, you ruined it," said Palladium. "Yes, I ruined it. I ruined it the 100th recital of this tired joke, and I am very glad to have done so. Palladium, if you had your way, so you would tell that story for a living." Prince Palladium rolled his eyes. "Prince Blueblood, there's no need to become so defensive. It's merely a story. Have a sense of humor." "I do have a sense of humor," Blueblood roared, slamming his hoof against the table. "And that is precisely why I'm getting so sick of every pony taking every chance they can to remind me of that gala." The stallion sitting next to Blueblood chuckled uncomfortably. "Prince Blueblood, the smell of cake has filled you with mortal dread ever since that night. Surely you understand the humor in that." "I've disliked cake my whole life for reasons far more complicated than—" Blueblood bit his lip. "And just because of that one night. It's infuriating." One of the mares sitting near Palladium looked askance. "Calm yourself, Blueblood. You act as though it's all we talk about." "Oh, Princess Almondine, yes, you certainly earned the right to talk." Prince Blueblood hunched over the table and jabbed his hoof at her. "What was the joke I heard you tell Prince Noble the other evening?" "Blueblood hates cake so much he sends some to Rarity every day. Such a gem! I would expect nothing less from a mare of your stature." Luna tapped Blueblood on the shoulder with her hoof, startling him. "Prince Blueblood, please calm yourself." "Yes, calm down," said Prince Palladium. Luna bit the inside of her cheek. "Now, I'm sure your cake phobia is as complicated as you say it is, but—" "Then stop treating it like it's as simple as you're letting on!" Everyone jumped. The ponies nearest Blueblood fell to the floor, clutched at their ears, writhing in pain. The others could only stare, eyes wide with shock. Even Luna was speechless. Prince Blueblood had just used the Royal Canterlot voice. Blueblood's forehead was painted with sweat. He tried to speak, but the second he opened his mouth, everyone flinched, the ponies on the floor scrambling into the corners of the room. He galloped through the door, never to return. 221, 222, huh? 223 bits, and it's only Wednesday. Not bad. Trixie scooped up the gold coins and dropped them back in her lockbox. To think all it took was some cloaking device and a teleportation spell, and the crowd flipped out. Trixie reclined on her futon and looked at the ceiling, listening as the rain pattered against the tarp. "That's a 40-bit surplus. How am I going to spend it all?" She buried herself deeper into her futon and stretched only to feel something sharp jab into her withers. She looked down to find part of a spring jutting out of the mattress. "Okay, that will cost about 8 bits to patch up." Trixie placed a pillow over the spring, then looked around her caravan to see if there was anything else in need of repair. Some of the wooden panels beneath the stove were starting to rot. That would cost perhaps 2 bits to replace. The window above the sink had a crack in it, which would be another 12 bits. A drop of water hit Trixie's eye. She looked up and saw a small patch of the ceiling that was letting the rain through. That meant she would need to get a new tarp, which would cost 8 bits. In the meantime, she could hang a bucket under the wet patch and hope it wouldn't overflow. 18 bits left. What am I going to do with 18 more bits? As Trixie pulled her bucket out from beneath the sink and held it up to the leak, she noticed a news page flying under the edge of her futon. "Oh, right, let's see what's playing at HCT this week." She pulled out the news page and skimmed a few lines. only to frown in disappointment. The Huffington Community Theatre wasn't putting on anything she hadn't already seen. There was The Glass City, The Importance of Being Honest. Oh god, the importance of being earnest. Okay, I get it. White Groddle Lilies, The Stranger. Wait, what? For the first time ever, HCT is proud to present Albert Camus' The Stranger as adapted for the stage. Trixie flopped back onto her futon and squealed, "I didn't know they made that book into a play! Oh, this will be so much fun!" Performances will take place every day this week at 7:20 p.m. with a matinee on Friday at 2 p.m. Tickets cost 14 bits at the door. Perfect! This groundbreaking and controversial play, which will be performed in its original French, has been heralded as original French? Trixie dropped the newspaper and hung her head with a loud, petulant groan. Why would? Well, I guess I could pick up an English script somewhere and read along during the show. Oh, but the Huffington Public Library doesn't carry plays, and those scripts are always so expensive. I guess Ponyville's library is my only option. She hopped up from the futon and paced around the room, her head hanging lower with every step. Oh, but what if some pony recognizes me? What if I see that purple unicorn and she remembers who I am? Trixie's head snapped up. Or worst of all, what if I see these two colts? They spent so much time around me while we were repairing the caravan. If they see me, they'll know who I am, and they'll call out to me, and then I get the big earful from every pony and... Oh. Trixie stopped pacing. She rang her hoofs, forcing herself to breathe as slow and deep as she could. Okay, try to calm down. Those two don't seem like they would be spending a lot of time at the library anyway. She glanced out the window and watched the storm for a few seconds to calm herself. The wind outside howled and moaned. The thunderbolts clapped fiercely against the sky. Come to think of it, no pony's going to go out in this weather. I don't think any pony who would recognize me is going to be at the library. Yeah. Trixie walked over to a small box sitting by the door, opened it up, and pulled out a wig and a pair of fake cutie marks. If I'm really going to do this, I better do it tonight. As Luna watched each unicorn prince and princess bow to her before they left the meeting hall, a feeling of contempt overtook her. She marveled at the way they carried themselves, gracefully prancing out, as though they hadn't just caused some pony to have a panic attack. It was a gift only non-Alicorn nobility was lucky enough to receive. "Good night, Princess Luna. Give your sister my regards, if you would," said Prince Palladium, looking as pleased as the rest of them. "All things considered, your highness, tonight's meeting was quite productive." Luna sneered. "Then you haven't considered all things." "Beg pardon, your grace?" "Nothing. Enjoy your evening." "And you yours." He gave Luna the deepest bow of all, then trotted out the door. I'll see you in 2 weeks, your highness." "Sooner than that. Sometime this evening I'm going to have a private conversation with you. But first..." Luna tried to remember where Prince Blueblood's quarters were. She knew they were close to the meeting hall, probably less than 3 minutes' walk away. Somewhere in the northern wing of the castle, in fact. They might have been straight down the... "Would you like me to escort you to your chambers, your majesty?" Luna screamed and spun around to find a lunar guard pony standing at attention before her. She had forgotten he was there. He must have done something to conceal the emissions of his invisibility glamour. Otherwise, she certainly would have noticed him. "I do not plan on returning to my bedchambers immediately," Luna said, trying to recapture her dignity. "Although I would like an escort, preferably one that I can see." "Understood." Luna turned around and began her walk to Blueblood's quarters, but stopped after a few seconds. She couldn't hear the guard following her. Was he still standing in the middle of the meeting hall? "Come along, unless—" Oh, Luna blinked. The guard was walking right at her side, but his hoofsteps were silent. "I must say I am rather impressed by your quietude." "Thank you, your grace." "Tell me," said Luna, "have you cast a spell on yourself?" The guard glanced up and down the hallway, then looked up at Princess Luna. "No," he said, without quite making eye contact. "My armor reduces my weight. which makes it easy for me to move around without making any noise. But I can completely soundproof myself if you would like, Your Majesty. Luna rolled her eyes. This guard pony was a precious fellow, eager to show off his mastery of concealment magic. It was hardly an impressive feat, the 5 spell comprising the apochromatic corpus, invisibility for light, inaudibility for sound, intangibility for touch, inosmability for smell and taste, and insourceability for magical runoff, were all quite rudimentary, if a little hard to perfect. They were more of a physics exercise than an actual test of magical prowess. What do these simpletons at my sister's school for gifted unicorns call them? The 5 eyes of indiscernibility? No matter. Luna returned her attention to the guard pony. That will not be necessary. Understood. The guard glanced furtively back down the hallway, searching for signs of trouble. It made Luna's lip curl. Even she didn't take her job so seriously. He seemed more anxious than dedicated, though, as if he were looking for a specific pony. Eventually he spoke. Where am I escorting you to, Your Highness? Ah, yes, my apologies. You are accompanying me to Prince Blueblood's chambers. I see. The guard trotted a little more quickly, his pace overtaking Luna's. To fill him in on everything he missed? Luna cocked an eyebrow. Yes, I will be providing him with that information. All right. The guard dropped his pace and followed behind Luna. Among other things. What other things? If you don't mind telling me. Luna gave the guard a puzzled look. All of a sudden he wants to have a conversation? If you must know, I will have a word with him about his outburst. Such an extreme reaction to a bit of teasing. She bit her lip. I'm certain he could benefit from a talk about his feelings. The guard stepped in front of Princess Luna, stopping her in her tracks. With all due respect, Your Highness, that's really not a good idea. Luna loomed over the guard petulantly. And why might that be? That is, if you don't mind telling me. The guard refused to meet Luna's gaze, clearly intimidated. I once served in the prince's personal company, and I know from experience that he really doesn't do well in conversations about his feelings. All the more reason to talk to him. Do not overstep your bounds by trying to dissuade me. If any pony knows the value in conferring one's feelings, it is I. I don't question your judgment, Your Royal Highness. It's just, well, he's not the kind of pony you can change with a conversation. If anything, a talk with him will just the both of you worse off than you were before. I strongly urge you to reconsider your decision. At last he looked at Luna, staring up at her with pleading eyes. Luna studied the guard face for the first time in the conversation and decided he was sincerely concerned for the princess's well-being, though he tried to hide it behind a veil of dutiful stoicism. She then saw how young he was, perhaps only slightly older than Twilight Sparkle and her friends, and certainly no older than any of the other clandestine operatives she had met. But of course, this is not time for coddling. Luna leaned close to the guard and narrowed her eyes, speaking to him slowly and sharply. I will go to Prince Blueblood's quarters. I will discuss with him whatever I please. I will then return to my bedchambers and, because you have frustrated me, I will do all of these things by myself. The guard opened his mouth to speak, and if you contest my plans any further, I will see to it that you are demoted. Do I make myself clear? The guard pony looked away with a sigh, his face losing any concern or youth it had a moment ago. Understood. The guard's body became translucent. He grew clearer and clearer, from his hoofs to his head, until every part of him was invisible. His eyes were the last to go. They looked sad. Luna scoffed. She picked herself up and continued her walk. Of all the ponies in Ponyville, why does this one have to be the librarian? Trixie shivered by the doorway, her head hanging between her forelegs. Her wig clung to her face like a scared cat, keeping her from seeing past her own eyebrows. You really came here through this awful weather just to pick up a script? The purple unicorn picked up Trixie's umbrella, now broken by the wind, and tossed it into a bin by the door. Don't get me wrong, it's always nice to meet a pony who likes to read, but even Chameau isn't worth braving this storm. What can I say? Trixie asked through chattering teeth. I really like his work. Well, I can see that. The unicorn held out her hoof with a friendly laugh. My name is Twilight Sparkle. What's yours? Lula Moon. Nice to meet you, Lula Moon. Twilight Sparkle picked up Trixie's hoof and gave it a firm, well-practiced shake. Nice to meet you, huh? Well, she doesn't recognize me. That's something good. Nice to meet you too. Hey, is there a towel I can use? Yes, I just need to go upstairs to get one. Wait, right there while I'm gone, okay? I don't want any rainwater to get on my books. The unicorn quickly ascended the stairs, leaving Trixie alone to drip water on the floor. She whipped the seafoam green wig out of her face and glanced around the room, looking for anything suspicious. Much to her relief, the library was a completely ordinary one, except that it had a kitchen and a second floor. It wasn't at all what Trixie expected the home of the purple unicorn to be. There were no dangerous magical artifacts hanging from the walls or bizarre, ominous sigils carved into the floor. No glowing rune stones, no statues with moving eyes, no grimoires bound together by pony skin. It was actually pretty cozy. Here you go. The unicorn reappeared at the top of the stairs and tossed Trixie a small pair of towels. Sorry they're so small. I had some larger ones I could have given you, but somebody lit them all on fire this morning. The unicorn glared at the basket sitting in a dim corner of the room. That can't be good. Trixie stared into the basket as nonchalantly as she could, drying herself with their light, distracted dabs. Whatever was in that basket was alive and asleep, snoring softly like a small dog. She then noticed the scaly, spiked tail poking out from under the blanket. Is that a dragon? Twilight looked back at Trixie, smiling with pride. Yes, he's a baby dragon, all right. And a pretty terrific personal assistant, too. Trixie couldn't think of anything to say. She just froze, processing the fact that she had walked into a house with a dragon in it. And then there was Twilight Sparkle, thumping through a stack of scripts as if it were a completely normal thing to live with an animal that could breathe fire. The towels tucked themselves out of Trixie's magical grasp, snapping her out of her stupor. I wasn't finished with those. Oh, I'm sorry, Twilight said, handing the towels back to Trixie. I just assumed because you weren't using them. Never mind, it's fine. I'm just going to get wet again as soon as I leave. If you insist. Twilight levitated the towels over to a dragon's corner of the room and nestled them beneath the basket. Trixie gave her a confused look. His body heat dries them off. You said you wanted a copy of The Stranger? The theatrical adaptation, yes. Excellent. I've got it right here. Twilight pulled the script out of the small pile and stuffed the rest back into the bookshelf. You know, you don't have to leave right away. Before you came in, I was preparing for a late-night study session. I thought I might need some caffeine, so I brewed myself a pot of tea. But there's too much for one pony. The unicorn sat back down on the kitchen counter, next to a steaming teapot and a bowl of sugar cubes. Would you like a cup? Trixie cast a sidelong glance out the window. The rain was still torrential, and the wind still blew at gale force. She turned back to Twilight and nodded her head. Twilight smiled approvingly, then pulled a pair of teacups out of the cupboard. How do you take yours? With lemon. Twilight walked over to the refrigerator, opened its door, and nosed through its contents. As she did, Trixie glanced around the room, looking for a topic of conversation. No point in making this completely awkward, after all. Her eyes settled on the basket in the corner. So, how did your dragon light your towels on fire? Oh, it wasn't a dragon, said Twilight, her face still buried in the refrigerator. It was my phoenix. Your what? Trixie's head shot towards the basket. A tiny yellow bundle of feathers lay on top of the baby dragon. Yes, I know, Twilight continued. I live in a treehouse filled with books and papers with two creatures that shoot flames from their mouth. It wasn't easy to get a pass from the safety inspector. How? So you own a dragon and a phoenix? And an owl, Twilight giggled. She pulled a few lemon wedges out of the fridge and squeezed some of the juice into a cup. Is that enough? Enough lemon juice or enough pets? Twilight let out a loud snort, then poured a shaky stream of tea into Trixie's cup, nearly spilling it several times. Yes, it's quite a menagerie. I know a pony who takes care of animals for a living. When I told her and my other friends about the phoenix, she was afraid that I was becoming a hoarder. Once Twilight was through pouring tea, she handed the cup to Trixie, who took it with an uneasy giggle. So, you're a librarian then? That's just a day job, Twilight answered, still chuckling at her own story. I'm actually a student. Trixie took a sip of the tea to calm her nerves, and was surprised by how good it tasted. What do you study? A little bit of everything. I mostly study the magic of friendship, though. The magic of friendship? Trixie swirled the tea in her cup and watched the leaves spin, laughing despite herself. I didn't know there was such a thing. Oh, you'd be surprised. Actually, if you're not busy, tomorrow's the day Golden Oaks was founded. I'm having an open house to celebrate, and all my friends will— A soft grumble came from the corner of the room. Twilight and Trixie both looked to find that the baby had awoken, and was now sitting up in bed, rubbing his eyes. Now that Trixie had a better look at him, he seemed pretty adorable, harmlessly so, in fact. Twilight? The dragon said, yawning. What's going on? Spike! Twilight set down her cup and cantered over to the baby dragon. I'm just having some tea with a friend, while we wait for the storm to pass. I'm her friend? Trixie had to mull that thought over for a moment. She wasn't sure how it made her feel. I'm sorry if we woke you up. It's okay, Twilight. Is Pewee still asleep, Spike? The dragon looked at the little phoenix lying next to him. I think so. Twilight pulled Spike's covers back over him. Do you want to go to your bedroom, where it's nice and quiet? No. Dragon looked over at Trixie and scratched his head. Who's that? She's that friend I was— You know what, it's too late in the evening for us to be having a conversation. Twilight gently lifted the basket into the air, Spike and Pewee still inside, and carried towards a small room beneath the staircase. Why don't I just take you into your bedroom, where you can get a good night's sleep? When you wake up tomorrow morning, I can tell you all about— The dragon pointed at Trixie. What's wrong with her cutie mark? Trixie glanced down at her flank. The fake cutie mark was peeling off, revealing the real one underneath. She must have rubbed too hard when she was drying herself. That or the glue was giving out. It didn't matter either way. She was caught for sure. But Twilight didn't seem to notice anything at first. She gave the dragon a chastening glare, then looked over to where he was pointing. Spike, you know it isn't polite to— Oh my gosh! Without thinking, Trixie dashed for the door, but the purple unicorn's magic yanked her off the ground before she could make it. She struggled fiercely, kicking the air beneath her, trying to break free from Twilight's grasp. Trixie froze. She turned slowly around as far back as she could without hurting herself. There was Twilight studying her with the same expression a pony might give while looking at a traffic accident. Well, this is awkward. You're not the pony in the wig. Trixie plummeted to the floor with a shriek. She looked up, dazed, to see Twilight marching towards her with a sour look, a piece of the cutie mark hanging in the air beside her. What's this? Why are you pretending to be some pony else? Because I was afraid that if you recognized me, I would be put in a difficult situation, kind of like the one I'm in right now. Because sometimes the great and powerful Trixie likes to go about town without being begged to perform spectacular feats of magic. Twilight smacked her forehead. I see you haven't learned one thing since the Ursa Minor incident. Oh, but Trixie has learned something. She straightened up and brushed herself off, taking a moment to get fully into character. In fact, Trixie has learned 2 things. Don't tell the Ursa Major story while impressionable fools are around, and don't ever accept tea from Twilight Sparkle. She twisted up her face, trying to look as disgusted as possible, in the hopes that Twilight would kick her out of the library. Anything to get out of this mess. Well, that's just great, Twilight said, looking genuinely hurt. Right as I think I'm about to make a new friend. Surprise, it's just Trixie in a wig, and she hasn't changed one bit. She looked towards the kitchen, picked up Trixie's teacup with a flash of magic, and dumped its contents into the sink. I really did hope we could be friends. Look, if you promise not to disturb Spike, I can set up the guest bed downstairs. You can wait out the storm there. Trixie's jaw fell. You're kidding. Twilight gave Trixie a deadpan look. You're kidding, right? Don't you live outside Ponyville? It's half-hour gallop just to the edge of town, and you already look miserable. Just stay here tonight. I'll be on the second floor studying, so we won't be at each other's throats. You're being serious, Trixie said, shaking her head. You really, truly being serious? What is wrong with you? Do you like me all of a sudden? Twilight let out a heavy sigh. To be frank, no. After tonight, Trixie, I don't like you very much at all. But I don't hate you either, so I'm not letting you go outside in this weather. You're staying here. Trixie couldn't think of a reply. She just sat there, her mouth hanging open, stupidly. Yeah, this was the first part of the first chapter. As you might have noticed, it's fairly long, really. It was maybe the half of the chapter. It's about 11,000 words. I will link the fanfiction description, as always. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time.